Hey everyone, it's Zaphoid with SmartCash support. I'm here to address some issues that have come up recently, and I wanted to have a chance to talk with you while I was doing one of my afternoon walks through the nearby woods. It's a beautiful day. The mosquitoes are only lightly out, thankfully. So if you see me swatting at my face, you know why. Well, I am a Zaphoid, also known as Chris Carabats. You'll have seen me on a few different YouTubes, maybe at some events. I am not a founder of SmartCash. I joined the team back in February. I bought in back in October. My feelings here are relatively strong because I'm a big believer in the project, but I'm here to just try to talk about what SmartCash is, what the community fund is for, and to respond to some of the odd claims that have been going around. I'm going to start with what SmartCash is. SmartCash was envisioned by the three founders, Juicy, Solar Miner, and Alexander, all varying levels of pseudo-anonymous. And it was envisioned as a currency that would be used as a currency. I always like to say we're trying to put the currency back in cryptocurrency. We felt that there were not enough coins actually focused on the person-to-person exchange of goods for currency, and that SmartCash could fill in that gap with varying tools like short block time, instant pay, and the smart card and the smart band, and a few others. We have worked really hard, at least I have over the last 7 months, to keep awareness of SmartCash up and expand it into areas where we feel it'll do the most good for people and have the most chance at adoption. And we've had a lot of success with that in places like Brazil. And you'll likely see some interesting fun videos like SmartCash in the Jungle coming out soon that talk about how easy it is to spend your SmartCash anywhere in Brazil, as well as buying or selling it at about 13,000 physical locations. So I'm excited about that. I love it. I hope we can expand it to other countries. But Brazil's in an interesting time right now, so it might do a whole lot of good there too. At least I hope. The other part of SmartCash is the community aspect. Now, SmartCash wanted to create a decentralized team structure of the Hive teams. That started off as 3 Hive teams and now has been expanded to 6, where there is no CEO, there is no corporation. There are simply members who are at whatever level of anonymity they desire to be all around the world. I am obviously a fairly public face at this point. That wasn't necessarily my plan when I joined the team, but whatever. I am outspoken and opinionated and apparently can't shut up sometimes. The goal with this was to have it be censorship resistant, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And basically, there is no one head to cut off. There is no one site to go shut down. There's nothing. It is a decentralized autonomous collective or corporation or company or organization or whatever you want to call it when people come together to try to do what they feel like is good work. It is a voluntarist organization, as in nobody is forcing me to be involved or you to be involved, and nobody is using force in any way in the process, which will also come up later. The structure of the team was designed so that SmartCash would not just be viable a year from now, but 10, 20, 30 years from now. And the hope was that we would continue on long-term adoption and self-funding. One of the concepts about decentralization that keeps coming up is what it actually means. What is decentralized? Nobody can really give a great explanation other than they don't like what somebody else is doing. It's important to have a positive label for something when you talk about it, because otherwise you're really just going against something, and it doesn't really do you any good to go against things without any idea of where you want to go. Now, SmartCash has always known where it wants to go. It wants to increase decentralization through increasing Hive teams, increasing Hive team coordinators who are kind of the say in each team, and they can manage the team as they will and keep increasing that around the globe so that the decentralization of that keeps continuing. Additionally, we've wanted to create decentralization by creating a large number of nodes. Right now we have about 18,500 or so smart nodes allocated and a handful of other full nodes out there on the network. This is the largest running smart node or other master node system out there, and second only in normal nodes to Ethereum right now. I may be outdated. I haven't looked quite recently at some of the numbers, but it's a whole lot of nodes and more than enough to do what we need to do and keep the system very decentralized. The other part of that is, of course, who manages each of the teams. There's been a lot of attention on individual Hive members, or rather Hive coordinators, trying to make the claim that, oh, this one guy is in charge of everything. And that's simply not the case. It's very important that you think about when one guy has a job in outreach to talk to people, that maybe people will be blaming him or them for all of the bad things and think he's the one in charge, when really no, he's an equal among many. So it's incorrect to make the claim that SmartCash is run as a top-down corporation like Dash is, when that is simply not the case. Recently, Edge had a survey on their Twitter about what is decentralization, and the top two choices, over 50% was censorship resistant, and something like over 25% was running your own node. I personally think the two go very much hand in hand, because if there's only one node that's not very censorship resistant, and if you have a whole bunch of nodes running the full blockchain all over the place, that's pretty darn censorship resistant. So I like to think that about 80% of the people there would agree with our definition of decentralization, as well as, the rest of them talking about, being against the banks and yada, 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 which, well, you've seen the shirt I've designed, and you might think we might be on the same side of that game. Let's see, I had a couple notes here. What did I want to talk about next? Next would be what the community fund is. The community fund, there's a lot of confusion as to what that actually is. Firstly, the community fund was never designed as a democracy. The key feature there is one smart equals one vote. That means those with the most stake in the network have the most say as to how the community fund is spent. This is a pretty simple process. This is a fairly straightforward way to go about allocating resources. Is it perfect? Probably not. But it's certainly a whole lot better than mob rule and one person is one vote, not to mention a lot less overhead. So I'm not disappointed with how it's been working, despite some very vocal opponents about some of the fact where they don't like that people who bought in early or bought a lot of coins have more say than they do. Now, the purpose of the fund was to, and continues to be, to fund individuals who have project ideas to benefit SmartCash. It's really quite simple. You, as an individual out in South Africa, think you have a great idea of how to get SmartCash accepted at your local businesses. You need these resources to help you. You have a plan, you put forward a proposal, you get approved or denied based on the rest of the community. As it is right now, we've had about 69 approved proposals in the slightly over a year that we've been in existence, averaging over one approval a week, which is pretty darn good. If you look at most universities or sponsorships or whatnot, their approval rating is quite a bit lower and quite a bit smaller and involves quite a lot of more overhead. That wasn't our goal. Our goal was to let the community judge and decide who had the best case to spend this money. Some people complain about how much money is still sitting in the fund. It's how it's all wasted and whatnot. The goal of the fund is still to be there in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. The goal is not to be spent right now. The goal is that this coin will be in existence and will be usable for decades to come, which requires a fund that remains solvent. Now, one of the important parts about proposals is that proposals are supposed to be for something you can do. You do not make a proposal saying, hey, everybody, give me money so I can force so-and-so to make this change in the code. That's not what it's about. It's not about forcing other people to do anything. It's about you having an idea to do that you can do something to help the community and the coin. This involves such things as visiting local businesses, or building a bot to help people manage their smart nodes, or putting the SmartCash sponsorship on your show and doing dedicated videos to SmartCash. These are all appropriate ways that you can have a proposal. What isn't appropriate is doing things like giving back money to the community. One of the big no-nos is voting for this gives you money is a big no-no. We're not about bribery for votes here, even though a lot of people love free money, so it's great. One of my favorite Ben Franklin quotes was, as soon as people realize they can vote themselves rich, that is the end of this republic. Now, SmartCash is not a republic. We're not a government at all, though we do have a governance system, which are two very different things. But that quote resonates with me, because once people realize that they can that they can vote themselves other people's money, then voting itself becomes the job versus actually making productive use of their time. Now, related to that is, of course, the fact that we are not a democracy. Democracies are mob rule. Everybody knows this. We've known this for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The mob is not wise. That doesn't mean the rich people are wise either, but that does mean that they've at least managed to accumulate resources in such a way that makes them more, at least might give them a little bit of an edge, let's say. Also, it gives them a stake in the network, so they have more vested in making the right decision. When making the wrong decision costs nothing, or making a selfish decision causes nothing, or rather costs nothing, then you're going to get a lot of incorrect, uninformed voters who make selfish decisions. Having a stake in the system means that you are motivated to not make stupid decisions. Does that mean you'll always not make stupid decisions? No, but that extra motivation helps you at least put a minimal of effort in before voicing your opinion. The other thing about the community fund is we are not GoFundMe or Patreon or anything like that. If you need funding for buying a house, buying a car, medical expenses, moving, whatever, that is not the purpose of the SmartCash Community Fund. As much as certain people have had tragic events, that is what GoFundMe is for, and personal charity, not for telling the community that we should all support this one person and voting on it. The other part that people have complained a lot about is terms of use, which we have briefly talked about. The terms of use originally were very simple and straightforward, but their purpose was not to, let's back that up a second. But as people have used it, there have been people who attempted to find gaps between the wording and the intention of the proposal system, or just take advantage. So we've had to add additional wording there to clarify intention, as well as clarify what will actually be paid for. For example, if your proposal requires that you buy a new car to fulfill it, we're not going to pay you for the whole new car. We'll pay you for the months it's used for the proposal. That's a pretty straightforward thing, and funding anywhere and everywhere, and not exactly rocket science there. The third section that I'll touch on briefly is Hive payments and founder payments. The founders have all been pretty much majority holders, and payment to Hive members has been pretty much in line with what you would expect from similar professionals. Man, these mosquitoes. Similar professionals in the range. We're not here to talk about who gets paid what at an individual level, because that's, frankly, not anybody's business. But the interesting point that this always brings up to me is only in SmartCash do people complain a whole bunch about the founders holding the coins and not dumping them. If the founders are doing this as an attempt to get rich quick, this is a pretty awful way to do it. So I just think it's silly to spend a whole bunch of time worried about how much more money than you other people have, or how much more say that other people have. We should really focus on the areas that we can have change and have the most effect, rather than spending a whole bunch of time being worried about how maybe unfair this is, or how much power other people have in relation to us and how that just isn't right somehow. Now, the fourth area, of course, is the source of a lot of these accusations, and that's, decentralized video, which I've tried to answer some of the points here, at least as much as I can while I'm walking around the forest. It is quite a beautiful day. A little bit of a brown river next to me, but that's what you get here. God, mosquitoes, man, that is a giant mosquito. Ugh. Biting me through my shirt. Ugh. But Decentralized was a team member for about 3 months last year. He left the team because he was frankly not a good team player, but we tried to work with him for a while afterwards, and continued to have some progress even though we had conflicts with him. The source of this latest conflict is, of course, the fact that he wants the community to pay for the funds that he got robbed of, and we're saying, no, that's not what it's for. We're happy to help you, happy to give you funds, and happy to help you set up a Patreon or a GoFundMe or whatever, but you're not about to try to manipulate yourself into getting all your funds returned to you out of the community system and rob the future community of what that can do. Now, Decentralized has had 3 proposals in the year plus of SmartCash. He joined the team early on when it was starting, and was paid in Bitcoin to make the smartcash.cc website, as he will tell you over and over again. And then a couple months later, once SmartCash actually got off the ground, he started accepting SmartCash as payments instead of Bitcoin. I don't think that qualifies him as a founder, but that's between you and him. The first proposal he had was after he had left the team, and it was to create some sort of independent Hive structure with about $100,000 worth of SmartCash in it, and that passed, and then he abandoned it for some reason. I don't really know why, but he did return the funds that he had already been paid after not doing any work on it. Later on, he made a proposal at the end of March called give the bear market the giant middle finger by paying everybody double smart rewards, which, whatever, we all like free money, but again, the proposal system is about stuff you can do and not about changing protocol level stuff. And he could not do that himself, and he would require to change protocol level stuff to make that happen. And that is not what the community is about. Again, simple rule, you can't give money back to the voters. You cannot buy your way into winning an election. I think we all agree that is a bad idea. In general terms, I'm not sure why this is such a drama-full position here. And of course, the third proposal is the one about when he was robbed and forcing the community to give him back his money. So he has since demanded that he get private access to the web wallet to attempt to hack his funds. And we, of course, are not giving anybody free reign access to the funds on the web wallet. So I'm not sure what he expects there, but he did say if we don't give into his demands, he will attempt to destroy the coin via trolling, and you're seeing the results of that threat right now. Further on, he has been relatively dishonest in a couple ways, like we have paid him to be a middleman between us and a certain event, and we paid him for that, and he is now attempting to resell that booth to another coin because now he's mad at us, and that's the little bit of power he can exercise. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time talking about him because I know most of you don't really care about his specifics, but what you really do care about is the issues that he brought up. And I hope that I've answered them somewhat here as I attempt to wave the mosquitoes off. I should probably keep walking instead of sitting down because, man, they are going to eat me alive. But I hope that we have answered you somewhat here, and that I hope that I can answer your questions further. Look me up on Twitter at Zaphoid, Z-A-P-H-O-I-D, or Telegram at the same. I'm, of course, on discord.smartcash.cc, far too much, and you'll be able to find me there and talk to me, ask me questions, yell at me, whatever. I don't care. The issue is we just ask that you keep the ad hominems away, and don't spam other discords, and don't monopolize the conversation. Now that last one is a hard to codify, but we basically tied in with spam. So I hope that this has been somewhat helpful, and that you've enjoyed walking around the woods with me and watching me wave away mosquitoes. So if that doesn't work for you, well, I'm sorry. But it's a beautiful day and I wanted to get outside, and it seemed like the best way to talk while walking. So catch me on the airwaves. Talk to you later.